Wow. We're live, people. It's nice to be back. I am exceptionally late. Exceptionally late. I am embarrassingly late. I am so sorry. Exceptionally late. Exceptionally late. I'm embarrassed by how late I am, but I made it. I made it. We were doing things. I was ripping and running with the wife, and she knew I had to do things. I had to be here back at 3 o'clock for this, but I don't, I don't run shit. I run my podcast. I run this. I don't run, you know. So it happens. It happens. But anyway, I'm thankful you guys are here. Y'all stuck with me. I know I'm like 20 minutes late, but I'm so glad that you're here and join us for this discussion today. Basically, the plan here is I read Avengers of the New World, which is about the Haitian Revolution, and we're going to talk about the book and the Haitian Revolution and how that interconnects with America. It's very interesting because when you read it, you realize it's not. These are not. This is not. This is not the same. I was expecting one thing, and I got something. A completely different set of rules. I guess that's a nice word. Like a different set of rules. Like it's not the same. This is not American slavery. It's different. The French are different, and that is displayed very much so. And it's also a lot of other like when you look at it and you ask yourself, why does this not? Why weren't you able to apply this in America? And once you read the book, you realize why. Because it was a lot of things that had to go right for the people of Saint Domingue for like all of these things to come together. This was not a singular effort. It wasn't just the revolt. It was the revolt plus the French Revolution, plus their own rhetoric being used against them, and all these different classes of people. It's just a lot. It was a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. But it's very interesting. It's super interesting, and it all in the end of the day, it all comes back to free versus enslaved. This is basically at the end of the day, that's what the story is about. Free people versus enslaved people, and that fight for freedom and not wanting to go back because this was a very profitable colony and nobody wanted to they didn't want to let it go, and they didn't want to go back. The people who were there did not want to go back to enslavement, but the people who were profiting off of it, hey, I need y'all to keep making sugar cane. I need you to keep making coffee. You're taking, your views on freedom. They're taking too much time. It's taking too much time. I can't have it. So yeah. Anyway, we're gonna get started. We're gonna go ahead and get started on this breakdown. It's a good book. It was another book. I think it was the Black Jacobins. That's something French. I don't know. Jacob. It was Jacobins. Anyway, it was another book. That book was significantly older. I feel like it was written in 1930. This book was written in 1971 by Laurent Dubois, and it is significantly easier to read. And so yeah, I rather enjoyed it. So a little bit of context. The book is about Haitian Revolution. It involved torture, extreme exploitation, mass casualties, like a lot of people died. It ended up, it was basically like nearly in a bit of a war of extermination. And so yeah, it got dark near towards the end. It's basically broken up into 3 parts. The beginning of 4 parts. The beginning of the colony, which the French were very late into this colonization of the Caribbean, and basically showed up on the island that was being ran by the Spanish and was like, this is ours now. And then within a few years turned it into their one of the richest colonies they owned. Like it was printing money to like the spark and the very beginnings of the revolution in the island. And then from that point on, it was just like, it was get down and lay down. Everybody wanted a piece. Everybody was looking towards this as a way to get in on the profitable sugarcane, the profitable coffee that was being made in Saint Domingue. I think that's how you say it. I'm not sure. We might just call it Haiti because I'm not sure I'm saying that right. Anyway, I be reading it. You ever read a book and you're like, I think that's the right word, and then you hear it said, and you're like, nah, that was not the right word. That was not the right word. So, expectations. I'm not gonna cover every chapter. I'm not gonna cover like tactical maneuvers. I'm mostly gonna talk about like the geopolitics of it and what happened at the end, like the aftermath of it. Because one of the interesting things, and this is not covered in the book, they do have an epilogue, but for the most part, the aftermath of what happened with Haiti is not covered in the book. This book is mostly about the Haitian Revolution, but I would be remiss if I didn't explain that it got real fucked up at the end. But yeah, the whole idea here is just to kind of understand how they were able to free themselves from enslavement and become their own republic, which is dope, which is very dope. First and foremost, you have to understand that during this time period, the French was distracted. France was distracted. In 1789, the French Revolution erupted. So, for context, the Haitian first salvo, first battle, first revolt in the Haitian Revolution happened in 1791. In 1789, the French Revolution erupted. They were busy. They had their backs turned. They did not have time to focus on what was happening in Haiti because they had their own shit happening at their doorstep. Right? So white colonists who lived in Saint Domingue were fractured into their own subclasses, right? And I probably should mention this, but I'll talk about this afterwards. They were fractured into white royalists and poor white Republicans. And they were so busy fighting each other for political power that they didn't have time to pay attention to what was happening in Haiti. Simultaneously, because of this, because France was bleeding money, the French and the Spanish empires saw this as an opportunity to steal the most profitable colony on earth at the time, which was Haiti, Saint Domingue. So a little, I feel like I'm doing like everything is like a prelogue to the fucking book. But in the beginning, in the Caribbean, it was the Portuguese and the Spanish that took over most of the Caribbean. They had a pretty large head start on countries like France and England. Like they were late to the game as far as having your own colonies. So originally, when the Spanish colonized, the Spanish were the first to colonize what would end up being the DR and modern day Haiti. Like originally, the entire island was San Domingo. And it was at the time the Taino people stayed there. They systematically exterminated the Taino people on this island. They went from, I think the book mentions that there was 250,000, somewhere between 400,000 and 250,000. And I want to say by the time the French showed up, or it was about 20, 30, 25, 30 years, there were less than 5,000. Like they were like literally allergic to the Spanish. The diseases that they were exposing them to were killing them in droves, and then they were using them as slaves on the island. And this is one of the things that made the Spanish start using Africans, is because they viewed the natives in the Caribbean as I don't want to say weak, but they didn't feel like they were good for labor. They felt like they were prone to disease, and they weren't strong enough to handle the daily tasks that they were asking of them. Particularly, I want to say they were growing sugarcane at the time in Santo Domingo. So this led them to turn towards African slaves. But Spanish enslavement is slightly different from chattel slavery, the kind that we know here in the United States, because they were Catholic. My understanding, and granted, I could be wrong, but my understanding is that it was a lifetime commitment, but it did not mean the enslavement of your children. So like you could be a lifelong slave, but your kids would be freed. Additionally, you could get yourself out of enslavement by converting to Catholicism, which was a rule. They were like, I need you to stop doing that. That is not going to work for me. I'm not going to, somebody has to still harvest these crops. Anyway, so Spanish were there. The French show up in the island, and they just take a city. They just land on a city, and then eventually the Spanish just give them half of the island. And because they were lazy as shit, because the French were lazy as shit, they didn't come up with their own name. They just took the French name of Santo Domingo and named the other island Saint Domingue, whatever, something in French. Haiti. They named it that in French. It was very, very lazy. Anyway, so on this island, there were 4 different classes. It is the enslaved, the free people of color, the poor whites, and the rich whites. So each one of them had their own driving factors and shit that was going on with them on the island. Of course, at the bottom of the social ladder was, of course, the enslaved. But the free blacks were different. They viewed themselves, because a lot of them were rich, because the people on the island, there were very few white women on the island. So a lot of the men, the aristocrats that were living on the island, would marry black women. And then when they would die, they would will that land, that money, to their wives, to the black women. And it created this class of wealthy black people on the island who would then take that money and buy plantations and own plantations and have their own enslaved. So they did not view themselves. They basically was like, I'm not black. I'm OJ. Like I'm on some other shit. So they viewed themselves as aristocrats, and they wanted to break all these classes down into 2: free and enslaved. Everything else, bullshit. But the white aristocrats and the poor whites were like, nah, we don't trust you. You black, they black. If you get any power, you're gonna shut it down. You're gonna shut it down. You're gonna free the enslaved people. And the free people of color were like, nah, man, I'm making money hand over fist. Why would I ever do any of those things? Why would I do that? I'm making money. So there's this group where they're like pitted against each other, and nobody really trusts any of the other 4 groups. Additionally, a lot of the aristocrats did not live in Haiti. They were in France. They were absentee as fuck. So this is another part. They have no idea what's happening on the island. They just want that money. And they would put people in charge, overseers and people they would hire. And those people who were not, I don't want to say they weren't particularly wealthy, but they were employees, were like running the island running the plantation at the time. And they, because they had absolute power, would use the enslaved people to, work their own crops. worked their own crops, beat them to death. Like there was no real oversight into what was happening there on the island with the people that they put in charge. Many of the enslaved people, because they would have like 3 different levels. It would be like the person who oversaw the plantation was typically white. And then they would have a person underneath that who was like oversee the enslaved people. Like they needed like a go-between between that guy at the very, very top. And then at the bottom was like a driver, but that driver was typically black. You got to think of him like that dude in Life who tell him about the gun line, boss. Him. That's what they are. They are enslaved, but they better than you. They ate better, they dress better, they had a different way. Like if they needed to enact a punishment, the driver would be the one to enact that punishment. They were acted as a go-between between the fields enslaved and the overseers in the middle. Like that was that contact. So the overseers trusted the drivers, and the enslaved people kind of trusted the drivers, because at the end of the day, they still were enslaved like them. Like it's still, I'm still in jail. So because of that, some of the drivers would then write to the aristocrats in France and be like, yo, like, I need you to know what's happening here. It's kind of messed up. It's messed up around here. And they'd be like, nah, don't send me no more. Don't send me no more letters. Like, I'm good. I'm good. Don't tell me no more. Do not tell me anymore about what's happening down here on your island. I put him in charge because I believe in him. Bet. All right. So anyway, let me talk about some of the core themes. One of the things that's very big in this book is they talk about how they weaponize the oppressor's logic. During this time, this was once again, this is during the French Revolution. They were talking about liberty, equality, fraternity, the republic, all people being equal, because they was in the middle of fighting between the classes. So it was very difficult. It was very hypocritical for you to be like, oh, I don't want to be poor, or the aristocrats are stomping on us, and at the same time keep people in chains. Right? So they use a lot of that same logic and expose that hypocrisy against them, and force them to eventually, at some point, like not in the very beginning, but at some point, to outlaw slavery in the colony. That happened about halfway into the revolution. Another thing that happened is scorched earth. The enslaved people, the way they got their way, specifically early, is they burned everything to the ground. The first thing they did when they, uprise, is they burnt the plantation to the ground. It was nothing to come back to. They destroyed everything they got their hands on. And then they bailed and went into the mountains where they had the high ground and you couldn't find them. So it was very difficult to uproot them out. But also, the way life is, it's tough to rebuild things. It's easy to destroy things. It's tough to put things back together. And, at the time, Saint Domingue was producing like half of the world's coffee. It's massive generator of wealth. So when you start destroying things, that starts getting people's ears perked up. Like, what do you want? What do you want? What do you need? What do you need? God, this is what's funny about this book. It's so many layers. It's so much stuff going on at once. Another thing that is huge. The white people in Saint Domingue did not know how to fight. They didn't know how to fight. They had a militia, but the militia was being manned by free people of color. They asked for everyone to show up, but the people who were fighting for this budding nation was the black folks. There's this famous during the American Revolution, there was a fight between Haitian French soldiers and the Americans. It's called Battle of Savannah. They have a plaque there. I've seen it many. I've been to Savannah a bunch. I've seen it multiple times and had no idea what it meant. Basically, the militia in Haiti was ran by free people, manned by free people of color, was sent to Savannah to assist the colonists against the English because they were beefing. The French and the English were beefing at the time, and they're like, "Sure, we'll help," but they didn't send anybody. They care if they died. This is why they sent black folks, and they fought in the battle. And while they didn't win, they fought bravely enough that they eventually ended up with a plaque. Many of those people who fought in that militia would be generals, key figures in the Haitian Revolution that came up because they were the fighters. They were already battle hardened. I've been doing this. I am at least trained. Whereas no one else wanted to do this. Another aspect, once again, is the I want to say it was malaria and yellow fever in Haiti meant that most people were not accustomed to this climate. Most people, when they would send troops, and many people like the British, the Spanish, the French eventually would send people to there, and they were dropping like flies because they had no resistance to yellow fever and malaria. But the enslaved black people who were already on the island had already gotten, they've already dealt this. They already have immunity to this. Additionally, because of the sickle cell trait, black folks are partially immune to malaria. So it was not hitting us the same way it was hitting them. They were dying left and right. And the people who already had an immunity, we were fine. So you would send an army here, and initially they do okay, and then they would just stop. How do I fight? How do I fight against the enslaved and the environment at the same time? It's rough. It was very rough. It was very rough. So anyway, I'll probably circle back to that. Key moments from the book. We're going to talk about. I already gave you a prelude. The first couple of chapters are just like the early history of the island. It doesn't touch about the revolution. They don't talk about the revolution until chapter 3. Up until that, it's about the occupation of the Spanish, how the French got onto the island, it becoming the richest colony in the world at the time, and setting the stage for what would be the spark. Our tempers were already flaring. They already wasn't feeling it. So on August 21st, 1791, it was a massive coordinated attack that was handled on the southern plain of the French part of the island, and 1,000 plantations were burned to the ground. Hundreds of white colonists were killed. In the context, it seems like it was spontaneous, but it wasn't spontaneous. It was a highly organized attack, and the enslaved population was at the time composed of multiple different ethnic groups with different language. We use voodoo, the religion that they had grown on the island, as a method of communication, because religion was very big for them because it gave you a place where you could talk without the white gaze. I could talk and have a conversation with people and they're just in church. And they had some autonomy and freedom on their off time to go and do things. And they would use that time to gather, during the religious ceremonies, to gather and talk about, how they were going to get out. And the book talks about this. The reason why they chose that date is because all of the important leaders on that part of that northern plain of the island were getting ready to come together to discuss politics. And they originally planned to do this on the 22nd so that they could catch them with their pants down and get them all killed. Everybody was important in one fell swoop. But someone caught wind of what was happening, and it hastened. It hastened. They missed that opportunity, but it sped up the timeline, and they had to just go. It still was pretty coordinated, but instead of doing it in the time like they had planned, they were like, yo, we're gonna do this tomorrow because I don't know we're gonna get another shot at this. Because they already they're aware of something. Something is brewing. And when you burn 1,000 plantations on the richest colony on earth, you hit France in the only way they understood. They destroyed that infrastructure. So while this is happening, they're still continuing to keep things going. We're still continuing to keep things going on the other parts of the island. Like, yes, the northern province was in flux, but the other pieces of the island, other parts of the island, were business as usual. People were still enslaved, and it was a lot of time spent trying to squash the rebellion in the northern province and trying to prevent that from spreading to the rest of the island, and getting those people back on the plantation. The problem with just outright killing every single one of them is that they were valuable. They had value. They were expensive. So what they needed is to crush their spirit while putting them back in their place. I still need you to work these plantations. And that was the part they were trying to escape. They didn't want to kill everybody. They got to the point where they were willing to kill everybody, but initially they were just trying to get everybody back on the plantation. I just need you to get back to where you're supposed to be and work these fields, my brother. So by 1793, 1794, and this is about the 6th, 7th chapter, the French Republic was losing control, and white planters in Saint Domingue, because no help was coming from France, they felt like they would be better under British rule. So they started sending letters to the British in Jamaica, which was close by, and like, hey, if you took over this island, I wouldn't be mad. I would not be mad at you if you came and saved us. And if they invaded the island, they felt as though they could protect the institution of slavery. And also, Spain was just on the other side of the island. They were also there. Both of them were seeing what was happening, the budding revolution that was happening in Saint Domingue. And they were like, well, yo, if we could take it, I could put everything back together again and put them back to work, and then we can make money hand over fist while France is got their back turned. Or France is not paying attention. So within this context, the leader of the colony, the French leader of the colony, was trapped, was in a bad pace. He was surrounded by rich royalists, which was the people who, during the French Revolution, those were the aristocrats, British invaders, Spanish troops. And the only option was to arm the black population. He was stuck in a bad place. They already were in the revolt, but he was being squeezed on all sides because his aristocrats did not feel like they could protect him. They could protect their investment. And that led to the British showing up, the Spanish showing up. And who was here? Who was here in droves? There were more of than anyone else? Black enslaved. It was 300,000. It was 300,000 enslaved blacks. 20,000 white colonists and another 30,000 free people of color. Vast majority. If you needed an army, there they go. There they go. Do you want, you gonna give them a pistol? You can keep slavery intact, but it might come at the cost of your head, your neck. So this led to them issuing a decree that abolished slavery in the northern province. And once again, this was not a moral awakening. I needed the manpower. I need the people. Like, if I don't do this, I probably die. This place probably falls. This island probably falls, and the first person I am the chief person in charge on this colony, the French commissioner, and that's gonna be not my net. So he did what was logical, but here's the problem, and they talk about this in America too. Once you fight in the military, once you've seen equality on the battlefield, fought right next to your brothers in arms, regardless of color, free people of color, white people, it is impossible to put those people back in chains. They'll die first. They'll fight you to the death first. And that's exactly what happened. He could not get them contained. They had seen the other side. And this exact thing happened here in the United States. You see this primarily after World War I, going into World War II. But they came back and they were like, initially, and this is talking about American blacks. Initially, they went to go fight. Du Bois told them to lock arms with their white brethren and fight for democracy. And a lot of them went over there thinking that this was a way to prove themselves that we deserve equality. And when they got back, they were like, nah. It's a famous quote. I can't remember it, but basically it's summarized in, I'm glad that black people went and fought for freedom, but that's just, we don't want them to come back and think that they're getting ready to get equality. This is just basically, I forgot which one. It's one of them racist Mississippi senators, one of them cats. I can't remember the exact name. I'll find it out. And it'll come to me and I'll just like blurt it out randomly. You can be like, what? So you get that. Anyway, once you start arming people, once you put some people in the military, like they've seen, I've seen guys, die. Like I'm already come to terms with that. I'm not going back. Not going back to chains, right? Impossible to put them back. Like that, you let that cat out the bag, that's not going back in the bag. So this leads into our hero in this story. This is Toussaint Louverture. See, Toussaint Louverture. I try to say it French. I don't know. Toussaint. He is the hero in this story. Like this, like I could have read a book just on him because most of this is about him and his governance and how he became the de facto leader in Haiti, but also was attempting to try to keep the republic together. You could see him becoming radicalized over the course of the book to the point where he would have been their president, dictator, whatever his choice would have been, in 1798, this is when he put together a military army and beat up on the British, who already, losing guys to yellow fever. And then you come in and you got an army of guys who were like battle tested, battle hardened. At this point, they'd been fighting for years since 1791. This was nothing to them. Matter of fact, they were happy to see guys. They were happy to see the French and the Spanish show up because they were like, it's more guns. This is more guns for us, more ammo for us. You know how crazy that is? So let me tell you what he did, and how he bled the British military out, is he bypassed the French entirely. He didn't even have contact with the French at the time. He negotiated directly with John Adams for weapons and trade, knowing Adams hated the French. So basically what he was doing was governing already before he even controlled majority of the island. He was governing like an independent nation outside of French control. And the way he was allowed to do this was that the money stayed flowing. The money continued to stay flowing. And the way he was able to do this was enacting something very similar to slavery. So, like, yes, the people were free, but they weren't free. Like, you couldn't leave the plantation. He enacted laws that basically said that you could not. A lot of them were putting their money together and buying small plots and living on their own off the plantation. He's like, no. He wanted people to view, the former enslaved people to view, that this was their duty. Your duty was to keep the coffee flowing, to keep the sugar cane flowing, because this is your duty to the republic. Because at the time, Toussaint was selling himself as a loyal French citizen who expelled the traitorous aristocrats, who expelled the English who tried to take over. Like, basically, that was his selling point. This is a French republic, and we're loyal to the French, and you, as a good citizen, need to do what's right for the republic and stay on your plantation and continue to work on your plantation, which is very similar to slavery, because you can't leave, but you're free. They're not going to beat you. That was basically his selling point. Is the money need to keep flowing, to keep. He called it, or they called it, the book called it, militarized agriculture. He forced them to back on their plantation to keep that money, keep that coffee flowing. And what that did was it kept France, because as long as the money was coming, France was happy. They were happy what was going on. They did not care about what he was, the politics that he had freed the enslaved, because what he had done is instituted a conditions that were very similar to the slavery that they had before. And so during this time, Toussaint was like, well, I could take over the whole island. I could take over the entire thing. I can have everything. And he kicked the Spanish out too. And eventually he was de facto ruler over the entire island. He was basically their leader. That he could, deal with what he wanted. The change was Napoleon. Napoleon, when he came into power, saw Toussaint as a liability. He saw him as a liability. He's like, bro, he can't, he's too autonomous. He's doing too many things on his own. He's running this like it's his own country, free from the will of the French Republic. And it's just not, I can't have that. Like, you're not autonomous. You're not autonomous. So he had a plan. He was sending an armada, 20,000 veteran soldiers. This is, after the French Revolution, after I think the French and the British and the French fought also during this time. But after this point, like, I'm freed up. I ain't got nothing but time now. I got nothing, space, opportunity. I've set my sights. Now that the Republic has turned back around and saw what you're doing. You ever leave your kids alone in the house in their room, and everything's quiet and you're not paying attention, and then you're like, man, it's too quiet, and you realize that it is now lotion smeared everywhere, Vaseline smeared everywhere. This is Napoleon's view on this situation, that they've been running this thing autonomously, and it's like, oh, you're doing too much. We got to shut that down. So Napoleon sent an armada there with his brother-in-law, Charles Leclerc, whatever, with the plan that he was going to restore slavery on the island, right? When he gets there, they fight a war to a stalemate. They cannot, neither side was winning. During this process, they're killing many, many Haitians, right? Toussaint decides that this is in June of 1802. We're already in 1800s. He's like, I'll retire, go back to my plantation, leave me be. French general invites Toussaint to a meeting under the idea that this is going to be a truce, but it was a trap. Toussaint is chained and dragged onto a ship boarded by the French, a French ship. And he said, as this is a quote. It's a quote. He was like, "In overthrowing me, you've done no more than cut down the trunk of a tree of Black liberty in Saint Domingue. It will spring back from its roots, for they are numerous and deep." Let me tell you something. Mic drop moment. But so Napoleon, who was a petty man, did not want Toussaint to die quickly. He did not kill him. He sent him to a prison near the French Alps. And this is a man who was 60, who had lived in a tropical climate his entire life. And he sent him to this freezing fort and stripped him of his uniform and denied him firewood and restricted his food and left him in solitary confinement to just freeze and starve. So by April of 1803, he passed away. Toussaint passed away. This was just a few months before the leader who had taken up arms, and where is this in my notes? Jean-Jacques Dessalines. Anyway, he was the commander. When he took up command of the army after Toussaint was captured, he saw that they were committing literal genocide. 1, 2, that they could not be trusted. There's no truce. This is for a fight to the end. You know what I'm saying? This war, it went from, hey, we want to enact slavery, to total extermination, on both sides. He, Dessalines, whatever, man. I should have learned how to say this before I did this, but whatever. I was just reading French. I had people like in placeholders, like, oh yeah, I know that. Try to say them names. Nah, bro. I'm not even gonna, we're not doing that. Anyway, he ordered his generals not to leave anything white behind. He burned the city to the ground and retreated to the mountains. And this was an old tactic that they used to do back in the early days of the French Revolution. Back in 1791, they would burn things to the ground and steal and plunder and pillage and kill anyone white, because they had so much animosity to their white enslavers, or anybody white at that time. This was right back to that. Went right back to that. Not long after that, they pushed the French out of the colony, and they declared their new nation. Declared their new nation, as Haiti. What is this? Trying to see. Yeah. Then yellow fever. The yellow fever helped. Yellow fever was definitely on their side, on the Haitian side. It was a secret enemy. It was an invisible enemy that helped them many, many times take out people, even when it's a passive participant. The passive participant. So their struggles, though, don't end with their newly formed republic, because 21 years later, after their independence, Charles X of France sent 14 warships to Port-au-Prince under threat of a naval blockade and total war, and forced Haiti to pay $21 billion. It was 150 million francs at the time, but today that would be $21 billion. When you look and people are like, wow, man, why they like this? Why they poor? Why they struggling? What do you want me to do with this? That feels like a made up number. It feels like before he left, he was like, $1 million, like that. Like, just make up some crazy number that is just how am I supposed to pay this back? They took out loans and debt, and it's bad. It was bad. Anyway, in this context, This debt wasn't just for the land; it was for the compensation for the French planters who lost their loss of property, and meaning the Haitian government basically had to repay the French for the bodies of their own citizens, which is like to make the payments. Haiti was forced to take out massive high interest loans from the exact French banks that were, they were fighting against. They were extorting them. Simultaneously, the United States quarantined the island, refusing to recognize Haiti diplomatically until 1862. This was like middle of the Civil War. This was just out of panic. This is out of panic. These global superpowers, these white superpowers, quarantined this island to ensure that the Haitian model of freedom could not be replicated. The poverty of Haiti was not, this poverty you see is not a natural occurrence. It is a direct result of 200 years, excuse me, of economic revenge. Like, this is done on purpose. This is basically revenge. There was no scenario where they could have a thriving Black republic that close, especially during the early 1800s, which was the heat of chattel slavery here in the Americas, in America. Like, there's just no way. You're too close. You're giving too many ideas. It scared the shit out of them anyway. They looked at that, and at the time, and this is in the greater context, they believed that their enslaved people were happy. They had no idea that they hated it here, that they didn't like enslavement. When you look at the Haitian Revolution, their eyes were open bad. They were like, oh, not only did they not like it, but they'll kill us. Yes, they will. And they will. And it will. And it gave rise to a few slave revolts. Like this idea, specifically John Brown. John Brown 100% thought that what he was doing when he raided Harper's Ferry, and this is right before the Civil War, was that first salvo of the Haitian Revolution, like in 1791. The problem is that here in the United States, we didn't have all those dynamics. We didn't have all of those different factors, all those different people at play, all those different groups. We didn't have, a overseer with his back turned and multiple different ethnic groups. Here in the United States, they made very clear that it's just two. It's just you or them. You either Black or you white. And that class differentiation, they made sure to make the poor whites at least feel better than any Negro. Like at your worst day, you're better than them. At least you woke up white. No matter how you ate, how poor you are, you still white. That was their selling point. So we're breeding through that class. Now, granted, the ones at the top, they don't really fuck with the ones at the bottom, but because you don't have that there, they were willing to die to stop any type of uprising. You don't see this divide into four classes. It's really just two classes. It's just white. It's just white and Black. Because of that, there's no fracturing. There's no fracturing. And still, there were many places where they were very extremely concerned with the enslaved revolt because, especially in the Deep South, some of the enslaved populations outnumbered the white population two, maybe 3 to 1. I think in the first census, which happened in like 1860, they were like, oh, it's a lot of them, way more than we ever expected. If they wanted to take it, they could. So to stop that, they increased the brutality. They ratcheted up the brutality. I needed you to show you that this is not the way. It's never going to be the way. And anytime there was an attempted enslaved revolt or the idea, or we just think you might be doing that, they were chopping off hands and feet and heads and putting them on spikes. Like, we need you to know this is not the way. And this is a direct result of the Haitian Revolution. This is, this could happen to us too. We need to be extra cruel, extra brutal. Like, you ratcheted up that stuff. Anyway. man. In the end, the lessons learned here. The ultimate lesson here is that the physical liberation was just the first phase. It was just the very beginning of the war. The Haitians defeated the French military and out negotiated the French and the Spanish and established their own nation. But global white supremacy pivoted and turned the island into economic warfare that ensured that this free black republic could never thrive. They made sure that, yeah, you're free, but you're hungry, you know. And they, or ignored Haiti diplomatically and forced the nation to basically buy its own freedom in installments and payments. And one thing you learn from this, and it's just a brief of Haitian history, is that the current state of Haiti is not a failure. It's not a failure of black leadership. It is revenge, white revenge. We could not allow that to happen. There was a flirting of like, maybe not in Americas, but like Jamaica, maybe Jamaica. Maybe Jamaica. Anyway, so man, I did pretty good. I did pretty good. I'll be honest with you. I like this book. I like this book, but this book was, out of the 3 that I've read up until this point, this will be the fourth book. The prior 2 was Radio Free Dixie, about the life of Robert F. Williams, and then the second one was Black AF, which is like a kind of a total Black history book. And then the autobiography of Malcolm X. Out of all the other books that I've read, this is the most different. This required some knowledge what was happening geopolitically in the world, specifically in France, but also with the Spanish and the British, because they were also players in this. And it required you to understand that this is not American chattel slavery. This is different. These people are different, and they're very French. And a lot of what happened in Haiti is because they were French. Like, some of the thinking and the ideas they had was real French. It's very French. So it was difficult. It's a difficult, I won't say it's a difficult read. It's just outside my comfort zone. While reading it, I had to do some, hang on. Let me pause this. Sorry, I'm back. I's back. But yeah, it was a great book. I enjoyed it. I remember even before I read Malcolm X, somebody was mentioning that I needed to do more books that were outside of um, American Black folks, like more into the diaspora. And that's exactly what this is. This is me venturing outside of my understanding of just Black people, but how Black people fit on the world stage. And yeah, so ultimately, that was the plan that I was trying to have here, is that I'm trying to branch out outside of this box. Yeah, and I learned a great deal, because it showed me that, like, while a lot of things were similar, the racism was very similar. There were a lot of ideological differences in things and how they were governed, and differences between, like, how the French dealt with their colony or the British, as opposed to American chattel slavery. And that part was one of the things that, like, okay, I understand this, but I don't. So it's good to see that, and I learned quite a bit. I not sure what the next book is going to be. I am assuming that it's going to be Black Against Empire, which is about the Black Panthers, because I have been itching to read that book. I need an excuse, but also I love the Panthers. Like I could just talk about the Panthers continuously because they're a very interesting topic, interesting topic to me. And I'm always like talking about them. You can see it. Like I just wrote an article this week about the Black Panthers and their free breakfast program, their survival programs. And this is just an extension. This is a continued extension of that. And anytime I can talk about the Panthers, I'm happy. Like that's a good day. That's a good day for me. Anyway, it is 4:00 in EST, and I have taken up way too much of your time. How long has it been? 56 minutes. 56 minutes, and I talked about Avengers of the New World. I just keep wanting to call them like New Avengers, Avengers Endgame. I don't know, some Marvel reference. Like what I keep expecting. But anyway, next book is going to be Empire, Black Against Empire. That's it. Which is about the Black Panthers. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this book. What you thought about the synopsis of this book. What you thought it sucked. What you thought I was boring. I don't know. Let me know what you think. And yeah. Till next time.